Okay, hopefully you've had a go at solving this problem. Now let's go over the solution together. We want to get this page working like this page where we can add or minus numbers. So let's give it a go. So the first thing I want to do is just to create the HTML. Let's keep things quite simple for now. So there's a button to start with. We don't need to worry about the name of the button. And the text in here is click E2 plus 1. And then we'll create a paragraph saying count 0. And then we're going to add another button. And this time we shall do the same text as this one, but just replace the plus with a minus. Okay, fantastic. Now let's get into creating the JavaScript. So the first thing we want to do, and I just want to make sure, I just want to make sure that the JavaScript is connected, because that's often something that I forget to do, and I spend a long time trying to work out where I've gone wrong. So src equals counter .js. Okay, fantastic. So first thing we want to do is to create the variable, and obviously we want the variable to begin at 0. So we'll just call this variable count. Let's call it user count equals 0. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is start to add in how the buttons can then change this variable. So let's give these both an ID. So this one is, let's call this plus button, and then we'll call this other one, we'll give it an ID of minus button. Okay, so now let's try and get one of these working. Let's create the function. So the function we're going to be calling, let's check, plus button. We don't need anything in the brackets. Curly braces, so inside here we put the instructions, and all we want to do is put user count. We could either do equals user count plus 1. So we're saying basically we want to add 1 to the user count, so this would be user count equals 0 plus 1. So user count would then be 1. The next time we run the function, it would be user count equals 1 plus 1, which is 2, and so on and so forth. So just to start with, let's just test this is working by using the alert, and we just alert user count. So let's just give this a try, see if it works. Obviously we need to put in the button as well, on click. So we actually don't need to add the ID. What I meant was we need to add the on click, which is let's see, plus button with empty brackets. So let's give it a go. Oops, wrong one. That would have been nice. There we go, 1. Try again, 2. Okay, fantastic. And let's change this as well. This shouldn't be ID, it's on click. And then the parentheses, or the brackets. You can call them brackets or parentheses. You'll hear me use both of those terms. Okay, so that's working so far. Now instead of having the alert, let's change the HTML. So for that, we need to give an ID to our paragraph. So ID equals, let's just do overall value, or something like that. Or let's put value paragraph. Makes it a bit easier to remember. Okay, so instead of now alerting, we want to get the ID and change the HTML. So what we do is as always document dot get element by ID, and the name of the ID is value para, and then we want to change the inner HTML equal to, and then let's have it as count colon space and then plus user count. So we're using our operator here. So we're basically going to be outputting this as a string and then whatever the user count is. So let's just see if that's working as we were hoping. So it's still alerting, which is strange. Let's try saving, refreshing. There we go, much better. And now it seems to be going up just fine. So now we want to do the exact same thing, but for the minus button, because at the moment that's not doing anything. Essentially this is going to be really easy. All we have to do, if you think about it, is just copy and paste that again, change this to minus, change this to minus, and hey ho, we have the next function. Make sure it's called the correct thing, yep, minus button. So it's still getting the user count, whatever the variable is. So we could do user count equals user count plus 1, that'll be 1, but then user count will be stored as 1. So then it would be user count equals 1 minus 1, so we'll go back to 0. Let's test this out. So I'm going to refresh, I'm going to add 1 here, and then click to minus 1, goes back to 0. Perfect. So we can go up and down. So hopefully you've been able to code along with me. Congratulations, we've just created our first counter. In the next practical that's coming up, we're going to be looking at how we can do something awesome, like have the color change in the background. So pay close attention to the next few lectures and start thinking about how I might have done this. So just to review what we've done in this practical. Essentially what we did is we created two different buttons, one to click to +1, one to click to -1, and we created a paragraph. With the JavaScript, the first thing we did was we created a variable and we set it to 0. And then we created a function where if the user that clicks this button, it calls the function. What does the function do? Well, it adds 1 to the variable and then it changes value para, which was our paragraph ID here. And then all we did was output the current value of the variable user count and with a bit of text, and we did the exact same thing for the minus button for this one here, on click equals, and then it calls the function minus button and it just subtracts 1 from the variable user count and outputs that in the same paragraph. So I hope you had fun doing this. I look forward to showing you the next few lectures so we can get on to improving this practical very soon. So I'll see you in the next lecture.